it jumps from him to somebody standing outside a room in a hospital where two nurses push out these boxes that are just billowing dry ice. There's clouds of smoke everywhere. And we're like, what the fuck is this? And what's in the boxes? Presumably...
The boxes are not important. They're just wheeled off screen.
Presumably they're like supposed to be organs for transplant or something, but nothing is explained. She tells him that a corrections officer has died. And we're like, okay, first of all, who is he? Second of all, who is the corrections officer? Third of all, why are we in a hospital? What's in the boxes? Where are you going? You don't get to find out because it just smash cuts away to something else.
There is a brief scene of the president,
which
you forgot.
No. You can't just say it's a scene of the president. You have to set it up the way the film does, which is from there, smash cut to about 8 people in a speedboat.
Yes.
All with sunglasses on. All dressed completely randomly. Hawaiian shirt, Bill Bailey.
You say randomly.
Some
all
people
of
had
them were
suits.
balding.
A bunch of them were balding, it's true. And they're just rushing across a lake somewhere. And we literally at the time said, who are you and where are you going? And they're rushing and they're rushing and they're rushing. And it cuts around a little bit. Then it cuts back to somebody's fishing. Somebody who hasn't been introduced into the movie. And they pull up. Sort of alongside him almost, and he just kind of looks at them, and then it cuts back to them all saying nothing, not moving, and then it cuts off to something else, and we're like, what was that? Who the hell was that? And like you said, the president, later on, retroactively, we can find out if that's who he was, because the next time you see him, even though it's not very... it doesn't explain anything. The next time you see him, he's sitting with a guy on either side and they're all sipping tea in a cabin somewhere, watching the television going...
Watching the rebels get shot in the head. The president doesn't take any part in this movie, really. They cut to him occasionally, but he does nothing. He has no part. He's not connected to McBain. He doesn't send his men in. He doesn't do anything. His last scene is him announcing that they're recalling all American currency and replacing all bills with bills printed in red, white, and blue.
They'll no longer be green. They will now be red, white, and blue.
And there is no explanation as to why that is important or relevant to the film at all. But that is what you get. It's just baffling.
That's the wrap-up of the president's subplot. And by subplot, I mean the scenes where it keeps cutting back.
I'm about to say, the scenes, he's not a subplot. It has to be related to the movie to be a subplot. It's just there.
You see him fishing. Then you see him in a cabin sitting with his boys sipping tea. Then they have that lovely shot of the camera just spinning around and around and around, a whole bunch of them stood in the middle of said cabin. Then he's at a dinner conference somewhere. I say dinner conference because there's just plates and tables set up and he's up on stage, which has a great scene where they say, hey, Mr. President, is it true that America has invaded Colombia? And he goes, nope. And then another one of the scenes that did make me laugh unintentionally is one of the reporters asked him what would happen if Colombia invaded the American embassy in Colombia. And he goes, oof, well, if that happened, I think we would have appropriate retaliation. Smash cut to someone getting hit with a bat in Colombia. And I was like, is this the retaliation? What's happening? Again, it's showing us stuff, but what it's showing us isn't what's happening. That's not the retaliation. It's just a very badly edited scene.
So they go to see Michael Ironside, who apparently is
super rich and bored.
Yes, super
That's
rich
what
and
that scene
bored.
tells us.
He's an arms dealer.
Apparently.
And he brags about how he makes more money than the drug dealers. That's one thing he says. He says, drug dealers make 1/4 the amount of money I make.
Yeah.
So he's rich. And he says something about $10 million, and then they go away.
Later on, again retroactively, we figure out that apparently McBain, who we must point out, by the way, doesn't know any of these people. These were Santos's men.
Yes, he's putting together somebody else's unit.
Yeah, McBain was rescued at the very end. Literally, the war was finished, their war in Vietnam, and they pick him up on the way home.
Santos doesn't even introduce himself. He doesn't say I'm McBain or anything.
No. Presumably they spoke on the flight home.
Must have.
But none of them are his men. But the film shows it and tells it as if he's putting his team back together from Vietnam, but he's not.
And they all act as if he
was their commanding officer. But he wasn't. He was a prisoner they picked up on their way home.
On their last days in Vietnam.
Literally, they were flying home and they stopped off on the way to pick him up from the prisoner of war camp. So that is another disconnect that you have throughout the film, where they're treating him as if he is their commanding officer, but Santos wasn't even their commanding officer. He was just a part of their unit. McBain was not a part of their unit. He was rescued on the way home. Then the film, for some weird reason, thinks that you need McBain to convince the guy to help them out, even though he's already helping them out.
He's a mercenary being paid to do it.
He's already doing it, and McBain convinces him to do it, even though he's already doing it, by telling him that his dad would be proud if he did. His dad, who was in Vietnam, maybe died in Vietnam, I don't know. The film doesn't really say.
No.
Anyway, none of that is important. What's important is there's Colombian fighter jets. Okay? And the Colombian fighter jets are now the biggest threat to the movie. And one of them flies alongside our heroes in their plane with, the pilot, who's the medic?
Yes.
And McBain sitting next to him in a stupid hat. Great. It's already hurting my head. The pilot in the fighter basically tells them to land. They pretend they can't hear him over the radio. McBain, in one of the few things he does in the movie, takes out a pistol and shoots the pilot without A, breaking the window of their plane, B, breaking the window of the other guy's plane. Thus, there's no, loss of pressure or anything. He just fires, and the plane tumbles down and explodes on the ground. In my mind, there was so many things wrong with the scene, so many, that it couldn't pick which one it wanted to complain about. It just showed error in my brain, and all I could shout was, "No, movie!" The gun is right in front of the face of their medic, and he pulls the trigger. That's really fucking loud. The other guy would probably be like, "Oh," but he's not. The bullet travels beyond our realm and through the glass without breaking it. Despite the speed they're traveling, continues on its trajectory and hits the pilot in another plane. Again, transmorphing reality and going through glass, which, would be strengthened anyway. Oh, fucking hell.
No, all fighter jets can be taken down with a single pistol.
No. Like my mind started melting and it's melting again because it makes no fucking sense. And the film just presents it to you as if it's normal.
Here's the thing, because we're about halfway through the film. For some reason, the rebels are trying to take the landing strip so that McBain can land, because it's really key to get him into Colombia. There's a huge fight scene, but again,
contextless and meaningless.
Guns are shot, people are dying, but nothing is linked. They manage to land, and then very little happens. Oh. I suppose I didn't actually do my favourite scene. You did.
Favourite?
You mentioned...
You think that was my favourite scene? That was just a scene that melted my head. I didn't like it. It was just something that I remember. Okay, Cisco, what's the scene you remember from this film?
I don't know. I was literally about to say, but I don't think I have one. Then you started ranting at me. The closest I could get was I thought the scene with the hook, the woman.
That's just confusing.
But it was early enough that I still had hope that it was going to turn into a really...
We've thrown it away now. I actually read the back of the box. I know none of you will hear it because it's getting edited out because it was really long and boring. But I did read the back of the box. The back of the box almost makes it sound
The back of the box...
interesting.
Yeah, I can understand why we bought that. Because the back of that thing makes it sound good. And in all fairness, there are a couple of reviews online who are from people who are mental saying it's a great B movie. I don't understand you. I don't.